Hi, everybody, and Happy New Year. Welcome to the Double 18 podcast live stream. I'm your host, Stephen Nagishi, and thanks for joining us once again. And with me, as always, is my good friend, the Bears YouTuber from the WindyCity Production. It is RIshab Skiri. RIshab, Happy New Year. How are you?
Happy New Year, man. I'm doing well. I'm excited to talk about a lot of Bears news coming up. So yeah, it's been a good couple weeks, but happy to move on with the off season.
Well, definitely. Our good friend Philip Charles VanDerHeyden IV, who have done a lot of live stream with us in the past, will also be joining us a little bit later. He's getting his stuff set up right now as we speak. He'll be joining us in about 5 to 10 minutes. So we'll have another guest to discuss all things Bears and everything. But let's look back at the Bears Packers game on week 18. Excuse me. Where were you, and how was your emotions with regards to the Bears winning versus the draft picks, spots and all that other stuff that people have been talking about. But in all, winning is very, very important for a team like this that has lost 10 in a row. Entering this game, so I have no qualms about winning the game, and it only costed the Bears probably 2 draft spot, and to be honest, I don't think it's all that big of a difference.
Yeah,
If
I
you
was.
ask me
Yeah,
regarding winning the Packers game versus the draft picks and all that stuff. Give me your thoughts on the reaction, your emotions about winning that game, and where the Bears are now as we head into this very important offseason.
yeah, just like you, I was really happy about winning that game. I mean, moving down, I think it was only one spot in the draft order. That's not going to make a big difference, right? Like if it was a difference between having the number 1 pick and having like the number 5 pick, and we needed a quarterback, then I would have been mad about winning that game. But we haven't beaten the Packers in 7 years. Like it's been such a long time. Caleb
Right.
Williams and all this, the people on this team have gotten really sick of losing. So I think that winning that game actually did a lot more good for the Bears long term than
Yep.
losing that would have been for a draft pick, because at the end of the day, these players still want to win games, right? Like losing all these games is going to be very tough for them mentally. And Caleb, especially against his rival, the Green Bay Packers, like he almost beat them last time. Got robbed at the last second, basically by a blocked field goal. So I think it felt good for him to finally win against the Packers. And for us as Bears fans, like obviously we want to beat the Packers every time. Like we've lost against this team so many times, every single year. So I would much rather take a win against the Packers than moving up one spot in the draft. And like I mentioned, it just does a lot of good for the confidence of this team long term, because the majority of this team is staying here for the future. Like we're not going to change this roster too much. I mean, the offensive line might change, defensive line might change, but like quarterback is going to be the same, receivers same for the most part. Cornerback, safety. Like there's going to be a lot of players on this team that were here this year that are still going to be here next year. So the fact that they finally got um they
Mhm.
finally beat the boogeyman, basically, right? The player, the
Exactly.
team they can never beat. I think is big for their confidence long term.
Yeah, I think players don't really care much about the draft picks and all that stuff because you're talking about a guy that's going to be, coming in to replace you in the short term and long term. So, the players themselves, they don't really care about the draft picks and all that stuff. And look, as much as I love the draft, the mock draft and everything, it's kind of sickening to talk about the Bears draft in November and December when the season is already kind of gone sideways, and it's unfortunately, it's been that way. And the Bears finally beat the Packers. I think it's a great way for Thomas Brown to go out on top. He took over a very, very less than ideal situations, and for him to go 0-5 would have been, I wouldn't say catastrophic for his future and his reputation, but for the fact that as poor as they played offensively throughout the game, they hung on. The defense finally showed up. The special teams had a great touchdown that was very much reminiscent of the one that was compared to more than a decade ago when, I think was it Devin Hester who faked the punt, and then Johnny Knox returned it, but that was called off because of some blocking penalty or whatever the hell that was. And it's a nice win. I remember, what Nicholas said. They're 10 years since beating them in Green Bay. I believe that was the Thanksgiving night. I remember I was watching at a diner in Atlanta, on that day, very cold and rainy day. That was the Brett Favre retirement ceremony. I think that took place 10 years ago that night. And then the Bears were actually, I think the Packers were actually had a 1st and goal with about a minute or so left. And then the Bears somehow hung on and beat the Packers. And I believe, that was John Fox's first year.
Yep.
And that was the only time, that was like the last time they won that season, because they finished 6-10 that season the rest of the way, unfortunately. That was like the highlight of John Fox's a very short coaching tenure, if you remember. But winning certainly breeds confidence. And, for Caleb Williams, he has come very, very close to, leading the Bears to several fourth quarter heroics. The first game against the Packers, he led them to the big 4th down conversions. And then, if it wasn't for Matt Eberflus, we probably should have gotten, moved closer to the field goal range, and we would have won that game too. We would have gone probably 2-0 against the Green Bay Packers at that point. And then, the following week against Minnesota, Caleb led the Bears to what was that, 10 points in less than 2 minutes, thanks to the onside kick as well. That game they should have won as well. And then the following week, the Thanksgiving game, the one that Matt Eberflus got fired for. Caleb was, despite completing barely over 50% of the passes, he was actually close to putting the Bears in a position to win, or at least get close to, a field goal range if it wasn't for Matt Eberflus' stupid clock management. So, he came very, very close. And I'm glad that after coming so close and getting so many people shitting on him, Caleb is able to go out on top on the final game of the regular season. And now I'm ready to welcome in our good friend Philip Charles VanDerHeyden IV. Phil, Happy New Year. Thanks for joining us once again.
What's going on, guys?
We're good. We were just talking about the Bears-Packers game with RIshab, and we did a live stream together for at least you and I that day about a week ago, up until I predicted
the Bears victory. By the way, do I get credit for that when I predicted a victory every week?
Your first correct prediction of the entire year.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting that. It was I thought, Bears are going to lose this game when the Packers kicked the the field goal to take the lead 22-21. I thought, well, that's all she wrote. But thankfully, the Bears won. And, we were talking about, winning versus the, people complaining about the draft spot and all that kind of nonsense. But, it's only about, 2 spots from, I think, the 8th at the time of the game, and then, finishing at 10. I don't think it's like, all that huge difference in a year that is a quarterback that is seen to be one of the worst in recent memories or so. I don't think it's all that cracked up to be, and then I think fans should take a win whenever you can, especially beating a Packers team that you have not beaten in 6 years, and it's your first win in Green Bay in a decade or so, right?
Absolutely. I mean, there's value in beating the Packers. There has to be, right? I mean, otherwise, why did we keep getting so upset about losing to the Packers?
Right. Right. And then we were also discussing before we had you on, and I think you might have been listening to us, as Nicholas said, the Bears should have won more division games. They had the ball to win it. They were very close till the very end. If it wasn't for Matt Eberflus's egregious, clock management in the game against, the Packers and the Thanksgiving game against the Lions. So, but
you can make the argument we should have won 4-2 in the division, which is
at least 3-3, or at least
a history-making division, and
that would have been that would have been huge. Absolutely,
we had the hardest schedule in the NFL, like by far. If you look at opponents' win percentage, which I think makes our what Caleb did even more impressive because he still had a pretty good rookie season. Like if you look at Jaden Daniels, schedule and like the Bo Nix schedule, even like it's much easier than Caleb's schedule. So I think hopefully next week's gonna be easier.
Yeah, I feel like I'm down to do a little hating. I think that he got like the nice, he got to go through preschool, first grade, second grade. We skipped out guys straight to middle school. So,
Now, speaking of Caleb Williams, obviously this was not in the discussion, but let's talk about his rookie season this year. RIshab, let me start with you. On a grade of A through F, how would you honestly grade his rookie season?
I think I'd give him a B+. I know for some people that may be a little bit too high, but I still think he did a lot of good things. If you look at the coaching staff he had to deal with, right? Like he had the worst coaching staff in the NFL by far through 8 weeks or whenever Eberflus got fired. And even after that, Thomas Brown was not a good head coach. I mean, he was a good OC, but he had no idea how to be a head coach of a team. So I think the fact that he still had one of the best seasons in Bears history from a production standpoint at the quarterback spot is actually pretty damn impressive. Like if you look at his total yards, rushing and passing, he had the most yards by any Bears quarterback in the history of the franchise. Like with the horrible coach, against the toughest schedule in the NFL. And I know he struggled with the deep ball. He struggled with the accuracy sometimes, but I really feel like those things are fixable, and like he was still doing a lot of good things. He was avoiding sacks too. I know he took a lot of sacks, but there was a stat that came out today. He avoided 50 sacks during the middle, like during regular season, which is like fucking insane. Like that's one of the most of all time, like in terms of avoiding sacks. So he just does a lot of good things, even as a rookie. And there's some bad habits we have to break, obviously, next year. But with the better offensive line, with the better coaching staff, Ben Johnson, hopefully, like I think he's gonna be a superstar like pretty soon. Like I'm still a big fan of Caleb Williams.
Phil, what would you give a grade?
For Caleb, I don't know. I guess it's all relative, right? Compared to like preseason expectations, like I always overhyped the team, so I gotta always like account for that. But I guess
I'm guilty of doing that this year too. So
I guess in terms of like I thought we would see more team success and like more cohesion, especially offensively. From like that point of view, I'd give him like a C because I feel like we started slow consistently. We were always trying to play catch up. We never gave ourselves like a safe lead and stuff like that, except for a couple games early in the season. But otherwise, I mean, 3,500 yards passing, we shouldn't be acting like that's no big deal.
Right.
We don't have that luxury as a fan base, and acting like we do is asinine. Like, if you want to say that should be expected, sure, but it hasn't been the norm at all. And like I think RIshab said, he broke the record for most yards in a season by Bears QB. I think he barely cleared Jay's because I think Jay had like 4,030 or something. So, but I mean, I think Caleb had a great season from a production standpoint. I'd give him a B+. Honestly, I don't want to go into A range just because that's pretty homerish, but solid season, all things considered. So
right. And again, comparing that numbers to, a fellow rookie, Jaden Daniels, there's not much of a significant difference. It's the numbers are somewhat, equal in terms of passing yards. So, the only difference is it's, the coaching, unfortunately. The Bears didn't have one. The Washington with, Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury and the new ownership, they're able to turn it around after being so pathetic and just so, downright embarrassing for more than a decade under Dan Snyder. I know Jaden Daniels gets all the love because of the success, the Washington had this past year. So, it's asinine, the amount of treatment, the unfair treatment that, he gets for being a number one draft pick. It does come with the territory, fair or not. And with a team like the Bears, which doesn't have a lot of success, on the field in recent years, recent decades, and then the lack of history when it comes to their quarterbacks, it's easy to take a shot at Caleb. And the Bears certainly did not do themselves any favors with a terrible coaching and terrible offensive line. But despite all of that, I really like the fact that as Nicholas was saying, you led them to various fourth quarter drives that tied the game or at least came close to winning it. That is definitely encouraging, Nicholas. There's no question about that. And the fact that despite close to getting 70 sacks this past year, the fact that he still did not miss a single series or a single game.
That's actually pretty awesome.
Really
that is impressive. You got to be able to be out there. The availability is paramount. And
what's the saying? Availability is the best ability.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And I think you have to understand, just how much of a gamer, a baller Caleb is, and there are a lot of things that people take shots at Caleb for unfortunate reasons, but his durability and his commitment to the game certainly ain't one of them. So I give him a solid B, maybe B plus, like you guys are, but a B would not be I don't think it wouldn't get that many people angry about. So I'm very, very encouraged about what Caleb is, and and hopefully he gets a decent coaching this offseason. And the Bears certainly have to fix their offensive line to give Caleb the protection that he deserves. So, speaking of coaching, let's move on. Excuse me, to the most important topic of our offseason as a Bears fan, the Bears head coaching search 2025. Well, we've been hearing a lot of conflicting reports about the Bears head coaching search, and a lot of people get really amped up or get riled up about it. Whether again similar to the Justin Fields versus Caleb Williams debate of last year. So the news came this morning. Adam Schefter broke it, as you know. Mike Vrabel, no surprise, excuse me, took the Patriots job. And so one coach is off the market. And this is actually, with all due respect, the least surprising news of this offseason. I think we all knew that Vrabel, because he was a former Patriot and won multiple Super Bowls as a player himself, would go there. So even with the Zoom interview and everything, I'm not that angry or shocked by this. I think we all saw this coming from miles. This was probably the worst kept secret the moment that the Patriots fired Gerard Mayo after a few hours after the final game of the regular season. Your thoughts on the Mike Vrabel hiring and what's next for the Bears, Phil? Let's start with you.
I think the Mike Vrabel hiring is a good hiring for the Patriots. I mean, they're smart to go and get. I think he was. I from the get-go, I had Vrabel and Johnson step above everybody else. If you're not going to trade for a guy, I thought they were clear and above the rest of the candidates. So Patriots were smart because, honestly, if Ben Johnson was fast about making his decision, then we could have been aggressive or someone else could have been aggressive about trying to get Vrabel, and then the Patriots would have missed out. So, as usual, the Patriots are smart organization-wise, and I can't stand them.
Rishab, your thoughts on the Vrabel hiring, and then that were you kind of where were you overall in terms of the coaching coaching rankings on Mike Vrabel?
I think it's a good hire. I had Ben Johnson number 1 by far, and then I had Vrabel in like the second tier. Pretty close to him, obviously, but like I would have been happy with Vrabel as a Chicago Bear too. I've been a big fan of him, so I think with the Patriots, he's definitely going to do some good things. Like they're going to win games now for sure. Like they're going to be a good team next year.
Drake May's a baller.
Yeah, Drake May is a baller too. Like if they get the right OC there, probably Josh McDaniels. Knowing that team, they're just going to bring back Josh McDaniels. But he's a good OC. He's not a good head coach.
Right.
So,
and at this point, I think his record and reputation is so tarnished as a head coach. I don't think
can only go back to the
no
Patriots.
one. Yeah, they will never go back to being a head coach at all. So
yeah, but overall, I think it's a good hire for the Patriots. But I'm happy they hired him and not Ben Johnson because I still have Ben Johnson number 1 by far. Like I think he's Kyle Shanahan. I think he's Sean McVay potentially.
Yes.
So
LaFleur. I need those wide open receivers that Jordan Love gets all the time.
Yeah, and Jared Goff gets.
Yeah,
that's
man.
true. That's true.
Running free. Honestly, think about it. When's the last time? I think of a couple times this season, like that one play against Jacksonville where we like faked left, right, and then hit commit. It's like an example of us actually scheming something like so well that we embarrass the other team. It doesn't happen very often offensively for the Bears. So I would love to get Ben Johnson. He is by far the number 1 for me. But
right. I live out here in Detroit, and people are definitely, obviously enamored with the Lions and their success, and it's without a doubt, the offensive success of Ben Johnson has played a huge role in elevating Jared Goff, who was, if you remember, he was drafted number 1 overall by the Rams back in 2016, but ever since they lost to the Patriots in that Super Bowl, I think Sean McVay kind of, gave up on Goff, and in that Goff, Matt Stafford swap. Literally, the Rams won the Super Bowl immediately, but Goff, slowly built back his reputation and credibility, and you have to give and that goes to Ben Johnson's ability to tailor the offense. And I've seen Lions games several times on television, nationally, as well as the Bears game. Of course, you saw it on Thanksgiving. You saw it on the Bears and the Lions when they were played at Chicago. I saw that live locally here on television as well, and that fake fumble Ruski that got picked up and thrown for a touchdown or something like that. Those are real creativities that comes courtesy of Johnson, and obviously you also have to have somebody like Dan Campbell to allow you to have a leeway to come up with those types of plays. So obviously Ben Johnson interviewed with the Bears yesterday. And all things, it seems as though, based on some of the questionable Twitter accounts that are, telling us all kinds of information now these days, it looks like the interview went very, very well, according to those people out there.
According to sources.
Well, yeah. Well, we like to believe that at this point, because any positive news would be welcome at this point. But all indication is it looks as though it was a very, very positive one, according to some of the people that have been putting out some information out there. So it looks as though, I think, Ben wants this job. It seems like Jeff Hughes, the Bears blog, have been saying that he wants this job, and I think it's no secret about that. It looks as though the New England out of the way. It's a 3-way race between Bears, the Raiders, and the Jacksonville right now. The Raiders fired General Manager Tom Tedesco the day after they fired Antonio Pierce, which was kind of a borderline asinine move that kind of reminds me of when the Bears fired Matt Eberflus the day after Thanksgiving, after they did the Zoom interview. If you remember, that was cold blooded, cold-hearted move there. Rishab,
What did me on Thanksgiving was cold-hearted.
well, it speaks volumes as to how poorly ran both organizations are, unfortunately. Unfortunately, Rishab, let me start with you. Ben Johnson interview yesterday. What do you think about the positives and the negatives that you feel about the Ben Johnson and the Bears match, and then what do you think that the Bears need to do to sell themselves? Presumably, they'll hopefully have another interview down the road, maybe about a week and a half during the divisional rounds.
Yeah, in terms of positives, he's really good play caller. Like for 3 years now, he's basically been a really good play caller. This is not like a Matt Nagy situation where he's only play calling for like 4 or 5 games. Like he's been a very like elite play caller for 2.5 seasons, right? Like the first season he took over mid-season because the Lions' current OC at that time got fired. And he turned the Lions around.
I forgot the name of it, but yeah, he took over, yes.
Yeah, he turned the Lions around by himself. Like the Lions had no wins basically at that point. So like he knows how to turn a team around. He knows how to design an offense to the strengths of his personnel. I think his scheme makes the offensive line look even better in some ways. I know they have a good offensive line in general, but like the scheme also helps out the offensive line. Like I think with Shane Waldron and the other OCs we've had, they kind of have made our offensive line look bad in certain aspects. So I like the experience. I like the ability to scheme guys wide open. I like the ability to win games. He has winning experience. He's went to a NFC championship game. And he likes Caleb Williams too, right? Like he had a quote about Caleb when we play the Lions. Like he was like, "Oh, that ball zips through the air. Like he's a fantastic competitor," or something like that. So he already knows like Caleb Williams is super talented. I know he's going to design, an offense around the strengths of Caleb Williams. And I think just having an offensive-minded head coach is so important in today's NFL because you see it everywhere, right? Like the top coaches for the most part are offensive-minded head coaches like Sean McVay, like Andy Reid, like Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur. Like that's how you win in today's NFL long term. So I think those are the positives. In terms of like negatives, I can't really think of many. I mean, the only negative big one is that he doesn't have any experience being a head coach. So we don't know if he has the ability to, be a leader of men, quote unquote, like George McCaskey likes to say it. But I feel like, yeah, I mean, I've seen some mic'd up videos of him and I feel like he knows how to like talk. I know like he knows how to like lead people and like, talk to people. He doesn't strike me as a Mark Trestman type of person that doesn't know how to like lead people or talk to anybody. Right. So I think there's way more positives than negatives. And in terms of how the Bears can sway him to the Chicago Bears, I think, just let the roster speak for itself. Like we have by far the best roster out of any of the remaining teams. Like the Raiders have a terrible roster. Jaguars have a terrible roster. Our quarterback situation in some ways I feel like is the best. I know, Trevor Lawrence has had good seasons in the past, but he's also getting paid $55 million per year. I mean, Caleb is on a rookie contract. Yeah. I think Caleb has a higher ceiling in some aspects than even Trevor Lawrence does. I mean, Trevor Lawrence has not been good for some time. Like he had a horrible season last year. So, maybe that's me being a Bears homer, but I really feel like the Bears situation is by far the best. Chicago is the best city. We have the most diehard fans. It's not even a question to me. I mean, the only thing is the Raiders provide you with more money and more power because they don't have a GM right now and they have Tom Brady, but like
Ben Johnson married.
Ben Johnson married?
I need to know this.
I think so.
I'm pretty sure he has a family. Yeah. So like that's another important aspect.
That's a point for us.
Yeah. Like, he doesn't have to move his family too far. I mean, Detroit to Chicago.
For Vegas.
Yeah. His wife probably doesn't want him in Vegas.
Right. That's why I was like, okay, if he's a bachelor, he's going to be looking at that Vegas shop like,
yeah. Let me find a wife right there.
Phil, let me ask you, of all the three coaches, 3 teams that are looking at Ben Johnson right now, Bears, Vegas, Jacksonville, the Bears do have, I think probably the most coveted job, thanks largely due to Caleb Williams. Are you worried about maybe the Vegas is kind of lurking because of Tom Brady wanting to, flex his muscle and make the Raiders go after Johnson? And how much do you think that's a concern in your opinion, knowing that one of the the GOATs reached out to you, and obviously you probably can't say no when he maybe contacts you directly or maybe indirectly through some of their people?
I just think that everything that we've heard about Ben Johnson has been that he cares very much about the opportunities that he takes, right. So much so that he's willing to turn down opportunities. I don't see how you turn down Jaden Daniels last year and then Caleb Williams this year so that you can go coach Aiden O'Connell, who, hey, man, I'm a Boilermaker, love AOC, appreciate AOC, think he's underrated, but he can't waste the tweets. Let's just be honest. So,
right.
If Ben Johnson cares about his legacy, there's no reason why he wouldn't pick the Chicago Bears with the teams that are available to us now.
Right.
Now, we need the Steelers to just keep doing what they're doing and leave Tomlin alone, because that job actually scares me. I can see if the Steelers fired Tomlin, I can see Ben Johnson being there like within 6 hours because they're just such a well-ran organization. And, so I think the Bears really need to lock this up because it's not – I can't remember another time in my life where we've actually gone after the top candidate on the coaching hiring cycle and are favored to land them. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, yeah, I'm ready for like a big hire. I'm over this Matt Eberflus small name bullshit.
I have a point to bring up. So back to the question about his wife. So he married his childhood or high school sweetheart, and they have 3 kids together.
Oh, okay. Well, he's a family man. He's a
family man, and Chicago is a much better place, or the suburbs at least are better.
Let me tell you this: your daughters will love Chicago. They will love it.
Yeah,
absolutely. I mean, Jacksonville. Thank God they did all of us a favor when they kept Trent Baalke for some reasons.
Honestly,
Shad Khan, my God, I have no idea what kind of information Baalke has on Khan or something, but it is crazy, and he's a Illinois alum like you are, Shad. I mean,
he has a building at our college like dedicated to him. It's called the Khan.
It all makes sense now.
Subplux or whatever, yeah. I was like, I'm gonna burn that building down if he steals Ben Johnson. Get out of here, you legend.
And it's good, actually. It does seem like all the questions about the structures and everything. It seems like that's been somewhat elevated. Some of the concerns, as you saw on the Sears Tower there, about the leadership and the organization. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. It's not like Kevin Warren is going to be, sticking his head into the, the draft war room and then, force polls to draft this guy or that guy or, watch the video together. I don't think that's not the case. I'm glad that, Poles is seemingly back, doing all the, the search leads and everything as he should be. There were some legitimate concerns about him looking very, very, despondent and really, really shell-shocked the day they fired Matt Eberflus. And, it looks as though, it looked like Warren was doing all the talking and raising questions. And certainly the end of the year press conference by all 3 men did no one any favors, and it just made us all angry because of George's comments about how pissed off he was with the Lions fans taking over, and then but he was more concerned with the fans chanting, what was that? Sell the team, when in fact he sold his suite to Derek Stevens, the owner and CEO of Circa Sports Result, who happens to be a Lions fan. So that's a fucking dickhead that is George McCaskey is. But let's kind of move on to another coaching candidate. There was a report that came out today, just a moments ago. Marcus Freeman, the Notre Dame head coach, Bears are apparently trying to
Not a
land
dickhead.
an interview with him. I know it was. It looked like that news popped up about last month, and then it came. I thought it was he extended a contract, so that's out of the water or dead in the water. But it looks as though with Notre Dame playing in the national championships on a week from tomorrow night, it looks like the Bears are trying to cover all of their tracks, and Freeman being a former Bear. Who unfortunately did not play. He was on the, I think, a training, I think he was on the squad during training camp in one of the years, maybe 2008, 2009. Coincidentally, also, that was when Ryan Poles was also on the squad, and then probably got released and, retired from football for good to, pursue a front office job and everything. Phil, let me start with you. Marcus Freeman, what are your thoughts on him? Are you impressed with what he has done with Notre Dame? And do you think that does that kind of translate into NFL success for you?
I think it can. I think a few things about him really stand out for me. I'm not like a huge college football junkie, but so I didn't know a lot about him before the college football playoff this year. But I learned a lot about him through the playoff, and then obviously watching his interviews and everything. And he comes across very impressive. I mean, what seems obvious to me is that he inspires his team. The fact that they really gave up like the first big upset of the year, I think, to NIU, which was an enormous upset. Right. And for them to bounce back from that and run the table is pretty fucking impressive. Like Notre Dame teams of the past would have just fell apart after that. That's the Notre Dame I'm used to. They'll eventually lose a game, and then they'll fall apart, and it'll be irrelevant by the end of the year. Well, Marcus Freeman seems like he, defeated that curse. So I like him a lot. I like the way that he leads his team, and he seemed humble. I like what he had an exchange with Riley Leonard at his press conference. I think not last game, but the game before, where he was trying to give credit to the team, and Riley Leonard interrupted him and said like that he was the reason that this place succeeded, and he was just being humble. I love stuff like that. For a quarterback to speak up and basically hey, my head coach is being too humble, and I want to make sure he gets his respect. That's team chemistry, right there. Mm-hmm. So I think he'd be solid. I like him as a third option potentially. I'm not sure if I like him more than Joe Brady or Liam Cohen or even Pete Carroll. But I mean, it's not bad. It's it makes sense at least.
Right. Well, Rishad, what do you make of this news? Despite the interview of Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn yesterday, do you think that this is some sort of a ploy by the Bears, much like the Ben Johnson's agent is kind of playing with both the Bears, Vegas, and Jacksonville? Do you think it's legitimate, or do you think that the Bears are just basically contacting anybody that would be of interest?
No, I think they have real interest. I mean, Marcus Freeman is a really good coach. He definitely knows how to lead people. He knows how to build a culture. So I think they do have real interest. I don't think Marcus Freeman has interest though, because his situation in Notre Dame is way too good, right? He's already getting paid good amount of money. He's already had a lot of success recruiting. Notre Dame is a really good place to be at as a head coach. So I just don't know why, unless he loves Caleb Williams and wants to take the next jump. I just feel like, honestly, being a college coach is better than being an NFL coach. You have more money, you have more power on your team. You have, sometimes better pay even at the college level. So,
I think seasons are worse. Recruiting is a beast, though.
That's true, yeah. But nowadays they have people to help out with that because it's just college operations are so big now. Some teams even have GMs now, college teams. So, I
think freaking Lombardi's GMing for Bill over at North Carolina, right?
Yeah, Michael Lombardi.
I think so.
Oh, I didn't even know about that.
I think I heard something like that, but
it's wild. But I don't think Freeman's not a realistic option probably for the Bears.
Why would you, if he wins the national championship this year, which would increase his stock even more? I mean, I guess Jim Harbaugh did it, but what? I feel like if you win a championship in college football, you gotta at least come back for the victory lap here, right? And be on campus for a year while everyone basically bows when you walk past them. think that
No,
sounds
I
pretty awesome.
agree with that. Yeah, it's too good at Notre Dame right now for him.
No, yeah, I mean, I could see him wanting to take that jump at some point, but he's so young, man. He's got a long career ahead of him. So,
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's see what happens.
he might be our coach in fucking 20 years. Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe he's
who
the
knows?
after guy.
Right. I think win or lose, I think Freeman will still stay with Notre Dame. I think it would be, I think it's a little early for him to leave Notre Dame after, 3 years on the job. I mean, this is his very first gig as a head coach. He wasn't a coach at a lower ranked team or conference like MAC or, Mountain West or anywhere else. This is his very first gig as a head coach. So if I'm not mistaken. So, he's got a lot to grow, and I think he will definitely grow. I know a lot of people in the Midwest area, Chicago, Michigan, where I am. There's a strong Notre Dame base and, Notre Dame alums. A lot of players come from that area too. So I think there's a real, opportunity for Freeman to make his own legacy. Maybe in 27 or 2028, that might change if, he win a title again, or maybe this could be his first if they lose to Ohio State the Monday on the 20th. So, for me, it's still Ben Johnson number one. But the guy that I want to kind of bring up to your attention is Ravens OC Todd Monken. I'm actually really
man in the league.
Yeah, I'm actually very, very intrigued by Todd Monken. He's actually a guy who is from Wheaton. He's a Illinois man. I believe he has got a brother who's also a head coach at the high school level down there as well. The job that he has done with Lamar Jackson, since he took over last year. I know people will knock on him for the terrible game planning against the AFC Championship against the Chiefs. That's understandable. But what he has done with Lamar Jackson the last 2 years is nothing short of incredible, making him into a dangerous passer already, on top of him being a dangerous run threat. RIshab, what do you think of Todd Monken? And would you be okay with Todd Monken as I hate to say, a consolation prize if Ben Johnson, God forbid, goes to Las Vegas or even Jacksonville?
Yeah, I'd be a fan of it. I think I tweeted this yesterday, but he's basically my number 2, I would say, behind Ben Johnson, or maybe Pete Carroll. Like Pete Carroll and him are kind of similar to me in terms of like tier level. But yeah, I mean, if you look at what the Ravens have done, they've had such a good offense for the past 2 seasons. Lamar Jackson has had 2 of his best seasons of his career. I mean, this year he could easily win MVP. He has 41 touchdowns, only 4 interceptions, like one of the best seasons, honestly, ever in like quarterback history, right? So I think, similar to Ben Johnson, he kind of needs a good offensive line to run his scheme. But, I think that's possible if Ryan Poles does invest in the trenches via free agency, via the NFL draft.
There can't be an if, right? There can't be.
Yeah.
Can't be an if.
Well, yeah, hopefully, definitely he should, because that's the main, flaw
if
we
he
have.
doesn't invest in the O-line this offseason, I'm full out.
Yeah.
Like, after
I don't think it's even a question, though. Like, obviously he will. Like, he's not that dumb to not invest in the O-line.
That's what I'm hoping for. Yeah. Like,
yeah. And we do need a running back, too. Like, I would say we need another, like, I'm not a big Swift fan, to be honest. Like, we need another, like, number 2 guy via the NFL draft or whatever. Because it seems like Roshan, they don't even want to give carries to him. So, I mean, but just like Ben Johnson, like, Todd Monken also needs a decent running back, I feel like, to run his scheme like he has in Derrick Henry this season. So, I'd be a fan of it too, because like I've seen his mic'd up videos, and like he's a guy that yells at you. He's a guy that has a big voice. He's gonna hold guys accountable for sure. So I think it'd be a good hire potentially.
Yeah, absolutely. Todd Monken is somebody who's got extensive experience coaching OC, not just with the Ravens. Before Ravens, he was actually coaching the University of Georgia under Kirby Smart, and they won 2 national titles with Stetson Bennett as the quarterback, believe it or not. And they don't have a big time receiver or running back. It was basically a lot of it maybe has more to do with their defense per se, which is Kirby Smart's specialty. Phil, are you high on Todd Monken, even though he's 58 right now?
Yeah, I mean, 58 is not old for a coach. I mean, honestly, that's pretty normal.
Right.
I am a fan of it. I'd say there's one sequence in particular yesterday that was really impressive to me, especially after last year, where they were criticized pretty heavily after they got bounced for basically kind of abandoning the run, which was their identity.
Right.
Yesterday, I think it was their second touchdown drive. They ran 13 run plays in a row.
I remember that
a few times, but Jackson ended up taking off. But it ended up being 13 straight rushing plays for a touchdown drive. And I love shit like that. Smash mouth football. It's old school. And I mean, I've been on the receiving end of that as a defender. Like when a team just runs the ball straight down your fucking throat and they don't even try and be creative about it. Like we're better than you. And they prove it. I mean, that takes so much confidence right out of your sails. Football is such a game of momentum. And I think that him recognizing their mistakes from last year and then doubling down on that this year, especially when you got King Henry. The fact that we let Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson get on the same team together is fucking nuts. They're cheating. That's what I wanted to do with Fields and Saquon when that whole conversation was happening. That's how I envisioned that. You have a great dual threat quarterback.
Right.
Done for running back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the play you're referring to was a 13-play, 95-yard drive, I believe. That was actually five. I think Lamar Jackson ran the ball 5 times. Derrick Henry probably gained a big chunk of it by himself, so probably like almost 50 yards by himself on that 3 runs. And then Jackson completed about 3 out of 4 for 31 yards. And then that drive ended Rashad Bateman catching a 15-yard touchdown pass. I believe that was on 3rd and 13. I think the one before, either Lamar got sacked or the run game kind of went nowhere, and then there was of that of sorts. So, to score the touchdown on 3rd and 13 is quite impressive. And I know people might bring up about his time with Cleveland with Baker Mayfield and also Tampa with Jameis Winston. I think when Jameis was at his best, even though he was pretty reckless with Tampa, that was when Todd Monken was actually coaching down there as well. So he does have an NFL experience. So I'm okay with Todd Monken. I know people will be like, "Oh man, he ruined. He didn't do well with Baker and Jameis, and he's going to ruin Caleb." No, I'd be more than happy to give Monken a shot. Even though he's close to 60 years old. So there, that's compared to Ben Johnson, that's maybe about 15, 20 year age gap there. Understandable. I'd be more than happy with Todd Monken. I just want the a legitimate offensive guy to lead Caleb. And I think Ryan Poles know that this is his one last shot at getting this right. Hiring the head coach is one thing, of course. I think all the names that they have interviewed, Todd Pensing, Mike Kafka, and all that people. Listen, I don't think people should really freak out at all. I think the Bears are just basically covering all of their tracks, doing a lot of Zoom meetings right now, because the teams that are in the playoffs, you cannot do an in-person interview until maybe around the divisional rounds. So that's why you have a lot of Zoom meetings, and I kind of find it funny, that people are getting angry about the Bears being cheap and not bringing in people for an interview and all that nonsense stuff. Rishab, you work in corporate world like I do, obviously. Do you find that funny? Like people are getting upset that the Bears aren't bringing in people for an interview like this one?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Wait, what do you mean? Like,
Well, they're upset. Like 670 the score guys are upset that the Bears aren't taking interviews seriously, or like bringing in people for an actual interview. Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel was also a Zoom guy.
We only brought him
in for an interview as well.
It's because the first round, you can't really, you can interview in person, but a lot of these candidates, you can't interview them in person. Like Ben Johnson, you can't interview in person because he's with
the team is in the playoffs. That's the first.
Other guys too, like Liam Cohen. Actually, I don't even think we're interviewing Liam Cohen, but the other guys, like a lot of them are on. Yeah, but other guys are on playoff teams for the most part, and we interviewed Ron Rivera in person.
No, I think they're doing that next week. This upcoming week, they're doing that.
In-person interviews?
I believe it's an in-person interview.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But yeah, regardless of the initial week, you can't really meet in person. And I don't even the job I got, my current job, I got it via Zoom interview. Like I didn't meet with them in person a single time until my first day of work. Like you can definitely get a lot done via Zoom interviews, right? Like it's 2025. Like obviously half the people, are just like talking virtually. Right. So obviously, when you actually want to hire them, you do have to meet in person and like see how their energy is in real life. But I'm not really concerned about that. I think it's just something Bears fans, Bears media want to complain about for no reason. But otherwise, I don't think it's a big deal at all. And the Ron Rivera thing, I think that was also to satisfy the Rooney Rule. Because you have to meet with two candidates in person, like minority candidates in person. And we haven't met with the minority candidate in person besides for Rivera. So, I hate that we have to say it that way, but that I guess probably what's happening,
Exactly.
I heard Courtney Cronin actually comment on that, and she had said that that she felt like the Bears actually did this right for the first time because she felt that by doing things virtually, like they were able to cast the biggest net possible.
Exactly.
They were okay with going virtual for the first round. So I think that makes total sense. And I think the only people that have problems with virtual meetings or interviews that way are old heads. Sorry, old heads.
Well, think about that. You pay a round trip ticket, first class, hopefully, and fly into Hallis Hall just to do a 1 hour interview for the first round. That doesn't seem cost prohibitive, and it doesn't look like a smart, because you're bringing in people like I said earlier, Drew Penting from the Cardinals or Mike Kafka, people that are like, who the hell are these guys? Why the hell are these guys getting interviews? You're just basically wasting valuable time and essence. And again, the rule is that if your team is in the playoff, you cannot do an in-person interview until maybe into the divisional rounds. Okay, so people getting upset about that are probably listening to the sports radios too much right now. So I tell people to maybe chill down a little bit. And as for the Rooney Rule, I'm told that the Bears already done interviews with Anthony Weaver, the DC with the Dolphins, and also met Aaron Glenn over on Zoom yesterday, shortly after they did an interview with Ben Johnson. Now, to satisfy the Rooney Rule, you have to have a minority candidates actually in person at a house hall. That's why the Patriots shamefully met the Rooney Rule when they interviewed both Pep Hamilton and Byron Leftwich on the same day. You saw that was crazy. That was crazy. You saw the Patriots Twitter handle showing both
we're done with the minorities.
Byron Leftwich photo on the same day.
That's like the goddamn rules. Now we're gonna hire a guy.
Yeah, we already met the rule. Yeah, now I'm gonna hire Mike Vrabel, which is like again
fucking Boston
and all the football there too. So again, unfortunately, I think Ron Rivera will likely be done in person this upcoming week. So that'll be the first of the two. Maybe Aaron Glenn could be the guy that they could interview along with Ben Johnson to meet the Rooney Rule as well. I don't think Marcus Freeman would be available in time to do the Rooney Rule, but who knows? But that will have to be until after the national title game is over on the 20th. So we'll see. That's also about the week of both NFC and the AFC divisional rounds as well. So will be very, very interesting to see if there are any more candidates that the Bears would be interested in interviewing, considering that because it's the playoff implications. They have to do a wide cast of interviews, which again, Phil said, Courtney Cronin said, the Bears are doing it right. And, I think it goes both ways. You have coaches like Drew Pensing and, Mike Kafka, who doesn't deserve a job. And quite frankly, Kafka and Poles goes ways together in Kansas City, but I don't think that connection alone isn't going to get you a job. And I don't think Poles isn't stupid enough to entrust on, Mike Kafka, who's a former Northwestern quarterback, by the way, but, to develop Caleb when he couldn't hack it with, Brian Dable down in New York with Daniel Jones at quarterback, or, Tommy DeVito and other, quarterbacks that they went through this past year. So, it's an opportunity for, lesser known coaches to get their names out there. If Mike Kafka ends up leaving, say, New York Giants, because Brian Dable wants to, take back the play calling ability or whatever. If Mike Kafka becomes available, Kafka coached in Kansas City, worked with Patrick Mahomes, so there's an opportunity for somebody like him to, either become a quarterbacks coach or even a, like an OC in title, because, if Ben Johnson is hired as an OC, he's the one who's going to be doing all the play calling. He said that most of it. So, I think fans need to kind of chill down a little bit as we go deep into the, the coaching search. So let's kind of do some, predictions for other coaching availabilities outside of the Bears. Vegas, if not Ben Johnson, I would not be shocked if Pete Carroll gets that job. What do you guys?
Gonna have it. I think it's gonna be Pete.
That's what I was gonna say too. I think he has power there to do anything. Because they don't have a GM either, so he can bring in his own GM. So I think Pete Carroll makes the most sense.
Right.
Vegas
That's
5.
Okay, Jacksonville. Now this is a tricky one. Okay, so I'm going to guess, where Trent Baalke is still staying. I'm going to say it's either Joe Brady or, maybe I'll go wild card Robert Saleh. What do you guys think?
You can go first, man. I'm kind of mulling it over. I'm not sure if I have like a definite Jacksonville guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I was thinking maybe Liam Cohen. I think they're interviewing.
Yeah, that's another good name.
And he's local too, like it's state of Florida.
Oh, wow. True. I didn't think about that.
Yeah, I think he's probably the most likely besides Ben Johnson, because I think if you look at the odds too on DraftKings, whatever, like I think he's one of the like top 3, odds for getting that job.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I think I feel like Dable is given most of the credit for getting Josh Allen up to NFL speed. Joe Brady kind of came in and managed it, and he's been great. But I feel like Cohen has more of a reputation for repairing like the careers or damaged reputations of once highly regarded quarterbacks like Baker. So I think he makes the most sense for Trevor. So I think for Jacksonville, that makes sense.
Okay. Saints job. This is probably a not much talked about job in this one. And I'm going to guess Aaron Glenn, because I think Aaron Glenn has had some ties with that organization as a coach and a scout, but I believe down there maybe. Obviously, Aaron Glenn was drafted by the Jets also, so there's that connection there. I think Aaron Glenn will probably either take one of those jobs, if not mistaken. So, but I'm kind of leaning towards maybe the Saints.
Yeah, I was thinking also Aaron Glenn potentially, but maybe even like Cliff Kingsbury. Like I feel like Cliff Kingsbury might get a job somewhere, and a lot of these teams want offensive-minded head coaches. So, maybe they want Cliff to they don't have a quarterback right now, but maybe they want the OC coach to help.
Right. Mm-hmm. Phil, what do you think?
Honestly, I think Aaron Glenn probably makes sense. That's kind of boring. I'm just like matching up with you guys, but honestly, I feel like this hiring cycle so far has been very predictable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like yeah, I feel like there's like obvious openings for obvious candidates, and that's usually not always the case.
Mm-hmm. And finally, I believe this is the last one, the Jets. Now this is a crazy one.
Aaron Rodgers.
You know, right? The coach has to
Plus him fall on
decide
his face.
does he want to work with Aaron Rodgers or not, and then also you have to deal with Woody Johnson and the New York media. That is, alpha bloodbath and very, very cutthroat.
Yeah, they're the Bears of the AFC.
Yeah, unfortunately. Oh man,
I can't even think of a potential coach that want to go there. Like, I mean, obviously somebody will, but
that's true. That's true. No. I think.
Imagine.
I know some names popped up. I think did Matt Nagy already interview with the Jets?
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, Matt Nagy. He's interviewing there.
Nagy, let's do it.
Oh my
Matt
gosh.
Nagy's Aaron Rodgers. I need that for my.
I really hope that happens too. That'd be amazing.
I saw also a name that somebody from New York media that is well connected popped up here. Brian Flores and Josh McCown. Both from the Minnesota coaching tree. McCown, I believe, is a QB coach. So, and if you remember, McCown was actually interviewed for the Texans job before too, even though he never had an NFL coaching experience, if you remember. So, somehow Josh McCown is highly thought of around the league for some reasons, and I
feel like former NFL QBs get that luxury more than any other position. Like Kellen Moore went straight into coaching with the Cowboys.
Right. He didn't have a lot of NFL coaching, NFL, success, mostly as a backup, because I think, at Idaho, Boise State, excuse me, he was an exceptional quarterback, managing that, explosive offense in the Mountain West there. But it didn't really translate much into the NFL. So he went into coaching. He had some success with the, the Cowboys before he had a, fallout with Mike McCarthy. But it would be interesting. Brian Flores, we all know about the, coaching, he's actually still, I don't think has settled his lawsuit against the NFL for discriminatory hiring process. And it would be absolutely interesting if the NFL teams and the owners are willing to, overlook that. And then there was an interesting video about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know if you saw it, basically lambasting Flores because, Fitzpatrick played for Flores when one year in Miami down there. And we all know the history between Flores and Tua Tagovailoa. And, it looks as though, thankfully, I think the Bears are not all that interested in Brian Flores at this point in time, even though his name was linked. But, you might still see him getting interviewed just to meet the, the Rooney Rule per se. But
he might be a Jets candidate, I guess. They have great defenders on that team. You could probably
that's true.
Yeah. What about Gruden, John Gruden? Like, I'm not sure if he's got any interviews yet, but I really feel like he will eventually, even like with all the things he did. It feels like the NFL eventually is going to be willing to forgive him. I mean, especially with
right. And if you're going to forgive Brian Flores,
play football again. I mean, come on.
Right. And if you're going to go forgive Brian Flores, I guess you're probably going to overlook, John Gruden is a racist email controversy. All things considered, I guess. But So that's the interesting one. Boy, I tell you what, the Cowboys one's going to be very, very interesting. Mike McCarthy's contract expires on Tuesday, and Jerry Jones is acting like the Cowboys' job is, I don't know, like the best out there, and always like talking gibberish and nonsense shit out there. But and I say that as somebody who lived in Dallas and has friends who work in the media down there. Top media down there that I'm somewhat connected to. Does Mike McCarthy stay, or do you feel like, fuck it, we're going differently?
Oh gosh, I hope he stays because Ben Johnson might. I mean, the Cowboys' job is always a good job, just for. I mean, not
Yeah,
really.
I
'Cause
don't know,
with
man. I
Jerry
don't know.
Jones,
Boy,
but
I don't know, man.
I guess not. I don't know. I mean, but they have a good roster, right? Like you could probably win a lot of games with Dak Prescott, Micah Parsons, those guys. So
I
like,
mean, they are. They do. They win a
yeah,
lot of
I
games
mean, they won 12 games back to
until
back with.
January.
No, I'm sorry. They won 12 games 3 straight years in a row with Mike McCarthy from 21, 22, 23. Unfortunately, this past year the injury kind of completely derailed their
I feel like Jerry
season.
Jones did it, to be honest. The way that he handled their offseason was so bad.
It
Like,
was.
he didn't
It was.
extend anybody. He just, like, put them all on lame ducks. Like, oh, fuck them. And then randomly
Yeah.
extended Dak before the year. Like, what is this
Micah
guy
Parsons
doing?
didn't even get paid yet, right? Or did he get paid?
I don't even think he wants to be there. Like,
Potential Chicago Bear.
He's like kind of like a one of those guys. Like, if he's not winning, he's got problems.
Yeah, I wonder
That's
if he's going to
true.
be available for trade this offseason.
Michael Parsons?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. That would be interesting.
I would love that. I'm all for it. But I think if that is the case, then maybe we should get Robert Saleh as DC, because we might want to transition to the 3-4 then. If
that's
we were
a good point,
to acquire Micah Parsons, because I think he's best utilized as an edge standing up. I don't know if you want to put him on in a 3-point stance at DN.
Right. I'll be interested to see where Saleh lands too. Saleh, I think, already has an interview with San Francisco where he was very successful under Kyle Shanahan. With regards to Ben Johnson's choice for DC, I think one name that's been mentioned a lot is Lou Anarumo, who was fired by the Bengals last week. I think with the Bengals, you spent all that money on offense with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, who's expected to get a huge one. And I'm not so sure about T. Higgins as a future. I know they want to keep him as well, but you can't keep two receivers at $20 million and have a competitive team. And unfortunately, Lou Anarumo, got the short end of the stick, whether it's fair or not, because that defense does not have enough personnel, unfortunately. So, if Anarumo is available and Ben Johnson becomes the Bears head coach, I hope maybe Lou Anarumo, he did a very good job. He led that team to Super Bowl several years ago, if you remember, back in 2021. So, Anarumo, I don't know if he has any head coaching aspirations or is he think highly, because obviously DC isn't thought highly of these days, unfortunately. But I think as a defensive coordinator, you could do a lot worse than what what the Bears fans had to endure the last several years with Matt Eberflus.
Foose was a good play caller on defense. Like, I can't stand him as a head coach, but got to give guys credit where it's due. He was a great play caller on defense. I mean, it was obvious after he left, like, couldn't stop anybody.
Right. Ironically, his name is linked to the DC job right now. So we'll be very interested to see. I'm sure Matt Eberflus is going to land somewhere if he wants.
We'll take his ass as a DC. He has to sew his lips shut because I don't want to hear him talk.
Well, as a DC, maybe that might be his only option. Being back at the NFL, and obviously he's had enough credentials, experience, and well respected around the league, in spite of what he did here at Chicago. So I'm sure Matt Eberflus will land somewhere in this coaching cycle.
That the Bengals are interested in him as a DC, which
I did mention that too. Yeah,
I actually hate that. Only because I'm like, damn it, he's gonna go win fucking Burrow a ring, like, and that's the last thing I wanted is for Flus to have his happy ending. We gotta get ours, then he can have his. But ours,
right.
They don't have good personnel there though. Like they don't have a good defense, so like I don't know how good he's gonna do, right? Because he needs his players to be good.
Exactly.
That's true. Until we got Montez.
They only have Trey Hendrickson as the only good player that I can think of on defense. He
is really good. He's
a very good pass rusher. obviously. But that's the only guy. But, for the Bengals, I think you're going to have to spend more money and invest on that defensive line if they want to get back into the playoffs. Otherwise, you're just going to waste the prime years of both Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase there. So
I think they're kind of dumb for not it's obvious how bad their defense is. Like, why haven't they moved T. Higgins for significant draft capital or a couple of defenders or something? Like Joe Burrow's going to score points, but guys, you guys don't need him. You guys don't need to give him treatment like he's Kyle Orton or something or Rex.
Right. Well, he does have a pull there. There's no question about.
I'm sorry, Kyle.
For the Bengals organization, because he's a Ohio guy, played at Ohio State, and obviously he's the franchise. He makes the Bengals relevant. There's no question about that. So Burrow's opinions certainly may have swayed the Bengals to keep him at least for another year. Now he's probably going to leave, and the Bengals are forced to scramble and pay whatever Jamar Chase wants at the expense of maybe. Forcing to release a few players or maybe, lose a few players moving forward. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens there. So,
honestly, for Burrow's sake, I think they should. I'm sorry, this last thing. I think they made a mistake letting Joe Mixon go. Or sorry, no, that's not what I meant to say. I thought they made a mistake letting Joe Mixon go, but they hit on Chase Brown. So Chase Brown looked really good this year. I think they really need to think about changing their identity and leaning more into complementary football instead of
that's right.
They're running a air raid type of program, and beat people 45-44. It's not,
They scored too fast, honestly. If you scored a little bit slower, your defense will have more of a chance to rest and probably be a little bit better.
That's true. That's true.
They gotta wear people out, and then the Bengals are a weird case, man, because I feel like they're right there, but they didn't make the damn playoffs.
Right. Yeah.
So weird. They're weird.
If they made it in this year, I feel like they would have went far because they were on a 5-game winning streak. And
Joe Burrow actually maybe be MVP but
now he's definitely not going to be.
Success matters so much to the MVP voters. So it's going to definitely be Allen or Jackson, but Burrow's fucking stat line, I think he was
5,000 passing yards.
5,000 passing yards, 40 touchdowns and 5 picks or some crazy shit like that. Yeah, that's insane.
Exactly.
Yeah, 43 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. That's wild.
Dude,
guys,
an absolute killer.
Guys, let me touch on the future of Mike Tomlin. Tomlin's name obviously has popped up recently. And his future has been discussed, after yesterday's loss to the Baltimore Ravens in the first half, where offense looked like just completely dog shit before they finally kind of turned it around in the second half. Unfortunately, it was kind of too little too late there. What do you think happens to Tomlin? Do you think they're going to leave? They're going to fire Tomlin? Do you think they're going to part ways? What do you think is the future of Mike Tomlin after yesterday's loss to the Baltimore Ravens? Phil, what do you think?
I think Tomlin's going to stay on. I don't think that I'm also maybe speaking that into existence because I don't want Ben to go there. But I really don't think that it's the Rooneys that own them, right?
Right.
The Rooney. I don't think that they're not really big risk takers. They like continuity and all that stuff.
Right, and that's been their MO, and they've been very, very successful in that.
Tomlin's never had a losing season. I feel like they'd be taking a bigger risk than I think a lot of fans are considering, because all it would take is next season to be bad. Whoever they hired has a losing season, and they will get dragged all off season after that for firing a guy that didn't have a losing season in 15 years. So I don't think I think he stays.
RIshab, do you agree with that, or do you feel like Pittsburgh, they're kind of stuck in a purgatory, like some people have been arguing, with Mike Tomlin, with the OC hirings of Matt Canada and Arthur Smith. Obviously, they added Justin Fields, and he became somewhat of an afterthought. Do you think the Steelers would be better off, cutting the losses and start fresh, or do you feel like this continuity, for the sake of continuity, will likely continue?
I don't think there's any chance they fire him because, like Phil mentioned, he's never had a losing season. I don't think, obviously it sucks to lose in the playoffs every year, but, unfortunately for Steelers fans, they're still blessed, compared to us. I would much rather be in the playoffs every single year than not ever be in the playoffs.
Right, and I would say that as a Bears fan, and I think Bears fans would take that all the time too.
But I'm sure it also sucks. At some point, you're kind of wanting to move to a higher level, which I understand their point of view on that.
Your ceiling is, I think. Well, how do you call it? The high floor, low ceiling team, right?
Yeah, basically. But your floor can get much lower. You could be like the Bears or the Browns and be a 3-win team every single year. I don't think Steelers fans want that. They probably want a Ben Johnson type, which I understand that. And I think if they do get Ben Johnson, that could potentially be a lot better for the franchise even. But there's just no chance they fire a coach that's never lost or that's never had a losing season. I don't think it's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
That would be in football history. A big deal, I think, for a coach that long tenured, never having a losing season, being fired.
If anything, they trade him. They could trade him and get a lot of draft picks, but I would not want the Bears to trade draft capital for him, if I'm being honest.
No, that sounds like a Jets thing.
Right.
Jets will, they don't care. They'll sell off their whole draft capital cabinet. So,
if Mike Tomlin is fired, would you interview? Would you want the Bears to interview him at least?
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Interview. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Hell yeah. I see.
Maybe not the top. I would put him a top 3 right now if he's available. Ben Johnson, Todd Monken, Mike Tomlin for me.
I'll go Tomlin.
Tomlin might be number 2. Yeah. Honestly.
Because of his experience.
Yeah, you already know he's going to win games for us. We're going to be guaranteed to go to the playoffs every single year.
Yeah.
Right. It could be like an Andy Reid type of situation. Remember, Andy Reid's time in Philadelphia kind of run its course the last 2 years where they had a losing season. The fans wanted him gone. They ran him out of town. He emerged in Kansas City less than a week, and then they've been a perennial winners, even with Alex Smith, and now they've become have their own dynasty with Pat Mahomes there too. So I think if Tomlin wants out, and then maybe they want to,
I think that's more likely than the other way. I think Tomlin would be more likely to say, "Hey, I'm ready for a fresh start." Than I
agree. I don't
think
Steelers will fire him, but I think it's about where Mike Tomlin's mindset is after yesterday. You're not going to get a quarterback in this draft. You're going to have to spend a lot of money just to lure, I don't know, somebody like Sam Darnold, who didn't look good the last few weeks with the Vikings, of course. Would you throw a draft capital? A bunch of first-round picks to get J.J. McCarthy, even though he might not be available at this point right now. That'd be, that's an interesting angle there too. What will Minnesota do, with their quarterbacks moving forward. All right, let's wrap this up on the NFL playoffs. The Bills and the Broncos are playing right now. It's 10-7, the Buffalo Bills at halftime. We have the one in later today, 2 games later. Packers, Eagles. We're all picking the Eagles on this one, right?
Not even a question.
Eagles 100-0. Tush push all day, every play.
Right. The Packers are kind of banged up after that last game.
The
Jordan Love did not return to the game.
We whooped that ass. You're welcome.
Right. Christian Watson suffered an ACL on a non-contact play. Unfortunately, he's been very, very hurt. So I'm very curious to see what happens with their vertical passing game, which probably might not even have any existence with the Vic Fangio defense there. I expect to be maybe like a 35-17 kind of like a blowout game. I wouldn't be shocked by that at all.
God,
I don't know, man. I hope so, but the Packers always somehow find a way to remain competitive in the playoffs. That's just what scares me. They have
That's true. That's true. All right, Sunday night game. Washington at Tampa Bay. Washington is favored in this one. Phil, who do you pick this one?
I got Tampa Bay. I'm hating hard on Washington ever since that Fail Mary.
We're all still hurt for that one too.
I mean, I'd rage quit.
Rishab, who do you like?
Yeah, definitely Tampa Bay. I can't stand the Commanders or their fan base in any way anymore.
Well, this is going to be an interesting game. I
I
hope Tampa Bay. I hope Tampa at home wins at least. And then tomorrow night, Minnesota at Rams. Unfortunately, that game has been moved to Glendale, Arizona, because of the wildfire in LA. Thoughts and prayers to everybody in the region who lost their homes there. But does this neutral site game changes anything in terms of who you're picking, Phil?
I don't think
it's
so.
It's kind of like a pick'em game, in my opinion.
Yeah, I honestly I like the Rams. I like the Rams in this game. I think they got the Super Bowl experience. I know not the whole roster was there, but I like McVay a little more than O'Connell, not a lot more. I mean, those two might be the best coaches in the league. But I think the Rams, their experience wins them the day. I think Darnold. Is this his first playoff game? I think it is, right? First playoff start. I think that
Darnold. Let me think. Yeah, it would be his very, very first one, I think.
I'm gonna stop predicting his downfall because I sound like a jackass at this point. But I think that he will struggle to acclimate to the playoff atmosphere, and maybe his next appearance will be more fruitful.
Rishab,
Vikings, fuck them too. Sorry.
So you picking the Rams, Phil?
Yes, Rams.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Rams. I think, Matt Stafford is much more playoff experience than Sam Darnold is. And I think in the playoffs, experience matters a lot. Like you see the first-time quarterbacks really struggle sometimes in the playoffs. So, and, the storyline between, Sean McVay versus the student, Kevin O'Connell, is pretty cool.
That's right.
But I think the teacher is going to win in this case, yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning toward the Rams right now, but I wouldn't be shocked if the Vikings are in this game till the very end, because, when you still have, Justin Jefferson as your, wideout, anything's possible. I think, as long as Sam Darnold is protected, I think, Sam Darnold's going to have his moments. This is a very big game for him. He's a free agent after this year. This is his opportunity to showcase himself, whether to the Vikings or anybody else. He's playing for his contract too. So, I expect this to, game to be a very competitive one. Darnold, even though he's been pretty poor the last few weeks, especially the Lions game last Sunday. I think, he knows what's at stake, and this is going to be a very interesting game, certainly, with a neutral site and all of that too. So very interesting game, the last 3 games of the rest of the season and the first round of the playoffs. As for the Buffalo and Denver, it's a, somewhat of a competitive game, but this is Buffalo's games to lose, right?
I'm riding Buffalo to the championship.
Damn. I got Ravens in the championship. I think Bills could go far too. Yeah, I mean, Bo Nix is doing decent, I think, but
right.
Bills should win.
If the Bills win this week, today, I think it would be them versus the Ravens in the next round, right? I think so, right?
Well, aren't the Bills number 3 seed? Or
no, 2. I'm sorry, they're number 2, and then the Baltimore's number 3, and then
well, it'll be against the lowest seed remaining, so I don't think they're gonna play each other, most likely.
Okay. Yeah. All right. One last thing before we wrap this up: NFL MVP. I know we had a little bit of discussion. Burrow, Jackson, Allen. Phil, who's your pick?
I'm going Josh Allen. I feel like you can make the argument for all 3 of them, right? So I think it's kind of like dishonest to try and argue for why one of them is more special than another. I think for me, it's just that Josh Allen's time has come. He deserves it. Lamar's got a couple already. For me, it's like a toss-up. So in a toss-up situation, I'm going to go with the guy who has not won yet.
Josh Allen.
Totally agree with that line of thinking. Like you can't give Lamar 3 to Allen 0. Like I think that'd be unfair. Even though I think Lamar's had the better season this year from a stats point of view, but
Right.
Josh Allen has a worse team. Like he doesn't have receivers, and he's still doing great things. So,
Right. I'm probably leaning towards Allen too. I think I won't have too many qualms, about Jackson winning. I'm not going to throw a tantrum because obviously I got no dog in this fight since I'm a Bears fan. But I like Allen, and I think Allen deserves, a recognition that the things that he has done for them this year. He did beat the Chiefs at Buffalo for the first time in a while, so I think that would also account for something too. And I think did they name the NFL MVP on the Super Bowl week?
Right before like NFL, I think it's the weekend before Super Bowl.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like the bye week around that time, that bye week before Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll be a very, very interesting to see. How the this playoff performance kind of impacts the MVP odds or winning the MVP for either Allen or Jackson. Well, listen, guys, I appreciate you doing this. More than 1,100 people showed up on this live stream for us this afternoon. I know when we went over more than an hour. So for those who commented, thank you very much. And those who are watching this live stream, make sure to follow us on Twitter. RIshab has his own YouTube channel. If you're a Bears fan, you probably already know RIshab. And obviously, RIshab's getting a lot of people tuning into this live stream, thankfully. Phil obviously has his also on X handle as well. And Phil is also on the process of launching his podcast, right?
Yes, I'll be starting a podcast very, very soon. And honestly, probably within the next month. I'm probably going to create the channel today. But yeah, I will be soon. Otherwise, you can catch all of my crazy ass takes on Twitter at Phil VanDerHeyden IV.
Right. That's right. And if you create the podcast, let us know, and we'll put it out there. And if God forbid, if you want us to join, we'd love to have you. We'd love to, be on your guest down the road as well. So,
Steven, dude, you have like the best insults, so I need you because profane is in the title of the podcast. Like I need some of your profanity.
Tyreek Stevenson rants.
Yeah. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, yeah, just like a report card on Ryan Poles.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining me, and thank you to more than 1,100 people for joining us on this live stream. We'd love to do this again, hopefully in a week or two down the road when the Bears will hopefully are deep into their next round of interviews with their coaching search, and then we should know more about the both NFC and the AFC playoff rounds after this week as well. Phil, RIshab, thank you very much for joining me today, and enjoy your Sundays, and hope to have you guys on again very, very soon. Enjoy your weekend, guys.
Sure.
All right, thanks,
everybody.
man.
Thank you for tuning in. Bear down,
Thank you very much, folks, and we will see you again in the next episode of the live stream. Enjoy your playoff Sunday, everybody.